Chapter 1. Mail's here. It had been a long night of crime fighting for Bruce. He had scoured the city, hunting in every crack and cranny for criminal scum, and had stopped a couple of small-time muggings and an apartment robbery. Hanging up his towel, he headed up the secret passageway to Wayne Manor. Dick was already out cold on a couch, and Alfred was busy taking away a half-empty cup of cocoa.
"How did it go, Master Bruce?"
asked Alfred, composed as always.
"Fine," said Bruce, grinning. "For once we had somewhat of a quiet night."
"For you, sir, I find that hard to believe."
Bruce chuckled and headed upstairs to his room. He couldn't help but feel that for once, something was going right for him. It was morning at Wayne Manor, and Alfred was pouring coffee for the two late-nighters. Bruce got there first, sat down and began going through the paper.
"I hate to interrupt, sir,"
said Alfred, setting Bruce's breakfast before him.
"but this package arrived early this morning."
Bruce looked up and took the large parcel from the butler. They both turned as Dick came walking into the room, rubbing the sleep out of his eyes. "Who's it from?"
"I'm sure I don't know, sir, but it's addressed to Master Bruce."
"Why don't you open it?" said Bruce, handing the package to Dick. "Thanks." The thick brown packing paper peeled away to reveal a transparent plastic container. "Who would send us something like this?" asked Dick, opening the case and pulling out a brightly colored plastic toy.
"Some sort of practical joker, perhaps?"
said Alfred, placing Dick's plate of waffles in front of him.
"Let me see that,"
said Bruce, taking the small toy from Dick.
"Well, sir?"
"It would appear to be a small horse of some kind."
"A pony, perhaps?"
"Maybe. Hey, there's a note, too," said Dick, reaching into the packing paper and pulling out a small envelope. "No return address or anything. It just says, 'Hope it solves your problems.' What do you suppose that means?" Dick opened the letter, took one look at the note, and his eyes froze. Handing the note slowly to Bruce, he said, "Here, Bruce, you'd better read this." Taking the note from Dick, Bruce read it out loud.
"Dear Batman, I hope this gift grants you some much-needed rest. On the back of this note you will find a set of directions. Follow them and I promise you things will change for the better. Sincerely, no one."
"And what exactly do the instructions say?"
asked Alfred, pouring some more orange juice for Dick. Bruce took a look at the back of the note, and then, grabbing the plastic container filled with ponies, he left the room headed for the Batcave. Dick got up to leave, but Alfred gripped him by the shoulder and pushed him firmly back into his chair, saying,
"You're not going anywhere until you've had a well-balanced breakfast, Master Dick."
Dick sighed and started shoveling waffle into his mouth.
"Honestly, you're going to make yourself sick,"
said Alfred, shaking his head. Dick bolted down the secret passage to find Bruce analyzing one of the toys. "What were the instructions?" he asked.
"See for yourself."
Bruce handed him the letter, and Dick looked it over. "It doesn't make any sense. Pink one for Joker, green for Ivy, purple for the Riddler? Who would want to give them presents, and why?"
"Whoever sent these to me wanted me to deliver them to Arkham personally. That's the reason for addressing it to Bruce, and then letting me know he knows who I am. Something's up. I've looked over every single one of these toys. They're completely normal. No hidden wiring, no secret compartments, explosives, poisons, and they're made out of a completely biodegradable non-toxic plastic. They're not even strong enough to be made into weapons."
"So what do you think it means?"
"There's only one thing I can think of."
It was getting close to dark as Zatanna stood outside the theater waiting for a cab.
"Can we talk?"
Do you always have to sneak up on people?
she asked as she turned to see a dark form emerge from the alley.
"This morning I received a set of these from someone named No One. Any idea what they are?"
Zatanna took one of the small toys and looked it over.
It's kinda cute. Planning to start a new franchise?
Batman glared at her.
Sheesh, it was just a joke. Lighten up a little.
"I need you to check for any kind of hidden magic. I have a feeling that this toy is a lot more than it appears."
Only if you say please.
"Please."
Sigam Nedi Liver.
Nothing happened,
No magic here. Why the interest?
said Zatanna, tossing the toy back to Batman.
"Someone sent these to me with a set of instructions telling me to give them to my worst enemies. It's either a plot against them or against me. Either way, I have to be careful."
I take it you've already checked them for bugs, metal files, plastic explosive, etc. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come to me. If I can't find any magic in them, then maybe they're just some normal toys.
As Zatanna said this, a nearby clock told midnight. Batman's fist clenched tight around the plastic toy, and his eyes lit up.
"If they're not magic,
said Batman, holding out an empty hand towards Zatanna.
Where did they just go?
Sir,
said Alfred, placing the brown paper parcel on the kitchen table.
I know this is getting repetitive, but you have received a package. Again.
That's the third time this week, said Dick. Are you positive that Dr. Fate couldn't find anything unusual about those things?
He said he could see something in my fate, but no magic anywhere near those toys.
Shall I retrieve the camera, sir?
Yes, Alfred.
Alfred stepped out the door, and reaching up, he pulled a battering from a dark corner just above the front door.
Here you are, sir.
Bruce took the battering and pulled out a portable viewing screen. He and Dick watched the front door on the screen, carefully waiting for something to happen. Suddenly, a box appeared on the welcome mat. Go back a few frames, said Dick, as Bruce scrolled back through the footage. Wow, it just appears out of nowhere. One frame is empty, and the next there's a box. Creepy.
Creepy indeed, Master Dick.
And without any end in sight, said Bruce,
Opening the letter again.
Interesting.
What is it? Asked Dick. Dear Batman, stop overthinking this whole thing and just follow the directions. I'm trying to help you. Put some trust in my little ponies. Sincerely? No. Bruce set the note down and picked up one of the toys. What are you going to do? Asked Dick.
Who do you think has the thickest skin?
What do you mean?
If I'm going to follow these directions and see what happens, I'll need a good test subject.
Chapter 2. The First Night. It was night, and Arkham Asylum was unusually silent as the dark shadow moved through the hallways. Several of the inmates paid no attention as the dark figure moved towards one particular cell. However, a few, such as Bane and Poison Ivy, glared daggers as he passed by. At last he stopped in front of one cell in particular. Can I help you? Batman turned to see Edward Nygma staring at him from his cell.
I'm not here to see you, Nygma,
said Batman, tapping the other cell door.
Croc.
There was a muffled grunt from the other side of the door.
What do you want, Bats? Someone sent you a gift.
There was silence from the other side of the door.
No one ever sends me nothing. You got the wrong guy. They left instructions for me to give it to you personally. Called themselves No One. Ring any bells? Never heard of them.
Batman placed the plastic yellow pony on a small opening in the metal door through which he could see Killer Croc lying on his cot.
You're kidding, right? Someone sent it to you. If you don't know who, then I guess I'll just have to find out,
said Batman, letting the toy sit there on the ledge.
Forget it,
said Croc, rolling over. As Batman left, he gave a quick look at Nygma as if to say, I've got my eye on you. Batman had just left, and Croc lay there thinking.
No one ever gets me stuff. They all just run away. Well, good riddance. I don't need anyone. Just me and a whole lot of money.
There was a click as if something dropped to the floor, and looking up, his eye caught the tiny toy lying there by the door. Something about it made him nervous.
Hey!
He yelled, picking it up and walking to the door.
I told you to forget this stupid...
Excuse me?
Said a quiet voice.
Could you please put me down?
Croc looked down to see the toy staring at him with a set of big aquamarine eyes.
Ah!
Yelled Croc, dropping the toy, which spread its wings and landed softly on the ground.
What's going on here?
Said Croc, backing up to the wall.
What do you want?
The toy cocked its head adorably to one side and said gently,
To be friends?
Croc stared at it for a second.
No,
Why?
because I don't make friends. I usually just separate their arms from their bodies. Batman, come get this stupid thing out of here.
Croc tried to see out the small port in his door, but all he could see was the Riddler in the next cell. Turning around, he saw the small yellow thing sitting on the ground crying. Croc could feel something bubbling up inside of him. He didn't know what it was, and he didn't like it. Angrily, he pointed at the toy and growled,
Listen, you. Shut up.
This just made it wipe its eyes and stare mournfully up at him. Croc had had enough. Taking 2 steps towards the toy, he reached out and froze. It was staring at him, Those eyes commanded that he stand still. He couldn't disobey those eyes. They were overpowering. Croc slowly withdrew his hands, his gaze still frozen by that stare. He lost his balance and fell over backward, bumping his head against the wall. As he lay there rubbing his head and moaning slightly, he heard a voice say,
Are you okay?
He opened his eyes to see the pink-haired thing standing on his chest looking hopefully at him.
Yeah, I'm fine,
said Croc, rolling over and standing up, still rubbing his head. He walked over to his cot and sat down. He knew when he was beaten.
What are you, anyway?
Asked Croc, trying not to look directly into those eyes again.
I'm a Pegasus pony, and my name's, Fluttershy.
Croc shook his head and looked carefully at the pony, positive that he had misheard her.
What did you say?
I said my name is...
She said again, hiding behind her hair. Croc stuck a finger in his ear and wiggled it around a few times before pulling it out and inspecting it. Then he looked back at the pony.
You're not scared of me, are you?
Asked Croc, standing up slowly.
No, I'm just shy.
She said, looking at him with one eye. One eye was enough to make Croc sit back down again on his cot. Crossing his arms and grumbling, he glowered at the pony.
You're not leaving, are you?
I don't think so.
She said, looking carefully around the room.
Whatever. I'm calling you shy.
The pony laughed softly and said,
My friend Rainbow sometimes calls me Flutters. You can call me that if you want to.
She had come out from behind her hair now, and he could see those two eyes, like twin sheathed swords. Croc glared at the wall as he realized that pony's two eyes were more powerful than the Batman's two fists.
What are you looking at?
The wall. What's it look like I'm looking at?
Oh, okay.
Croc sat there staring at the wall, growing more and more uncomfortable. Usually he didn't mind the quiet, but for some reason, with this pony sitting there, it seemed too quiet. He chanced a quick glance at the pony and saw her sitting there, with her cheeks puffed out slightly, as though she was holding her breath. Croc sat there growing more and more uncomfortable by the minute, until finally, unable to take it any longer, he growled,
Rainbow's a stupid name.
What?
I said Rainbow's a stupid name. What does she do for a living? Poop butterflies or something?
Shy tilted her head to one side and raised an eyebrow.
No, she manages Ponyville's weather.
Croc grunted and said,
Ponyville, huh? That's where you're from.
Yes, me and my friends live there. Rainbow would probably say we're the guardians of Ponyville or something.
She chuckled at this.
Let me guess, you protect it from rampaging buddy hordes and such.
Oh, that wasn't so bad. Now the parasites, those were a problem.
Croc gave Shy a sideways look and said,
What thingies?
Parasites. They're little insect-like creatures which, even though they're really cute, can be a big problem.
Too many heart attacks?
No, they'll eat anything in sight, and once they're full, they magically divide into more of themselves. Before too long, they're a huge swarm eating anything edible in their path.
Croc turned around to face the pony and said,
Well, why didn't you just, I don't know, rainbow flower magic them away?
Twilight tried that.
Who?
Twilight. She's Princess Celestia's personal student. Anyway, she tried to make it so that the parasite would stop eating all the food and making more of themselves. But the spell didn't work exactly how she wanted it to. The parasites started eating everything but the food. They started eating anything that wasn't nailed down, from houses to carts to signs.
Without realizing it, Croc had leaned forward and was listening intently to what the pony was saying.
What did you do?
Well, that's when Pinkie Pie, she's the resident party planner and new pony welcomer. She can be a little strange sometimes, but she's always looking out for every pony.
Every pony?
Yeah, well, that's when she showed up with a tuba.
A tuba?
Yes, and a harmonica, and drums, and all sorts of instruments. Well, she played some music and led those parasites right out of Ponyville and back into the Everfree Forest.
The Everfree Forest?
Oh, it's a very scary place, filled with all sorts of terrifying monsters like timberwolves.
Huh. They're not that scary.
Yes, they are. Especially when they're huge, smelly, and reform when you knock them to pieces.
Pieces.
They're made of wood.
Croc gave her a blank stare.
Wooden wolves. What's next, evil chickens?
Nope, just cockatrices and dragons.
Croc stared at her and then opened his mouth.
A cockatrice is a creature with the body of a chicken, the tail of a snake, and eyes which can turn you to stone. A dragon, on the other hand.
I know what a dragon is. You didn't meet all these creatures, did you?
Only once or twice. The cockatrice was an accident, but me and my friends had to stop the dragon from completely smothering Ponyville in smoke.
Which one of your friends took on the dragon?
Oh, that was me.
You?
Yes, I looked him right in the eye and told him to stop being such a big bull.
And the cockathingy?
I looked him straight in the eye too and told him to turn my friend back to normal or I'd tell his mother on him.
Croc didn't know what to say. On one hand, he didn't have a mother. On the other, if this pony could look a cockathingy in the eye without being turned to stone, maybe he should play it on the safe side. He sat there, thinking as the pony stared politely at him. He really should stop talking to this dumb pony and go to sleep, but for some reason, his mouth wasn't listening to his head.
How big was the dragon?
Bigger than a house, with razor-sharp spines and a long tail with spikes in it, and a massive head, huge fangs, fiery breath, and giant golden slitted eyes.
Croc sat there, his hands on his knees, looking at the pony and listening to her telling her story. This was going to be a long